fact that I'm an underdog. I like the fact that I crawled up from nowhere. I didn't have some giant defense contractor 25 years ago when AM radio was completely dying get behind me and pay to get me on dozens of stations to get ratings and then expand talk radio across the nation. Oh, and make no mistake, it was major defense contractors and Rush Limbaugh that saved AM radio. AM radio would not even exist today as we know it if it wasn't for Rush Limbaugh. So let's give him his due. And this is something that's in the way, way back burner of my brain. The fact that any time I'm put up against Rush Limbaugh or anybody else, I absolutely dominate them. People are like, well, then give us these ratings numbers. Let me explain to you talk radio. Whenever Ted wants to get the ratings, he has to go out to the big consortiums and pay to see them. Do you think the TV networks just get to see the Nielsen ratings for nothing? You think Nielsen does that for free? Goes out and gathers that data? No, you have to pay for it, and a hefty sum. Ted just came in my ear during the break, and he said, yes, we were already on that. We already have the numbers. I got a bunch of cities for you. Well, then, why isn't my show being promoted? Because I talk about 9/11 being an inside job? Because I'm not some candy-ass libertarian show? Excuse me. Because I'm not a coward? I'm Mike Tyson in his prime. Put me in the ring. I will rip these people to shreds. Fist and elbows. They're going down. Because I want liberty. That's why I'm fighting, is for my family. I know how real this is. I'm not fighting for a big ego. I'm not fighting to go to these stupid radio conventions and everybody kiss my hind end. I'm a recluse. I want to be left alone. That's why I'm out of the gates. That's why I came out of my cave. Because I want to be left alone. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm angry. I don't want to be here. I got up at 6 a.m. and took my children fishing. I almost called in and canceled the show today. I'm out there with a French bulldog and my 3 children. I'm catching bass and catching sun perch and trying to catch catfish. Boy, I had a big one right up there, almost caught him, but broke the line. That's what I want to be doing, not hanging around with rich people in New York or Los Angeles or showboating around with people. You can ask anybody in my office. I might go to a movie every couple of months with a crew or something, but I'm not out hanging out. I'm not out trying to hang out with the people and act cool and be seen. I want my freedom. I want my freedom. And I want the globalist off my back. I'm a free man. I don't want to be a slave on a global plantation. Now, I'm going to get into the news. And then wide open phones, second and third hour today. No guests, because I want to talk to you. But my brain just starts burning with the data and the information that in a consolidated talk radio system with one giant oligopoly of corporations, 2 different groups operating together to own the stations, own the hosts, keep people out, do whatever they can, that any time there's a crack in the door, and there's been dozens of these cases, I absolutely just wipe the walls with these people. Now, here's the good news, and I said I'd give you a bunch of good news next hour. Here's some good news, just one little piece of good news out of a cornucopia of good things. I listen to mainline neocon talk radio now, nighttime, morning, weekend, and they talk about global government and the ultra-rich and how the ultra-rich use monopolies and use government to shut down their competition. That was not on radio 2 years ago. The only place you'll ever on big radio hear anybody talk about the New World Order or such issues was George Norrie. And he took that show in the right direction. He deserves a lot of credit. He did that 7-8 years ago. Big change. And if you got to say somebody really opened the door to allow some of these topics to be discussed, it was George Norrie. At the end of the day, he deserves more credit than I do, having people like me on. And the system thinks it's safe to let him do that because he covers the waterfront. But the point is, truth is contagious. And the truth is, if George Norrie did a purely political show during the middle of the day, he'd beat Rush Limbaugh. The truth is, people are sick of the rhino establishment parroting the same message over and over and over again. And it's not just that it's the same old, distorted, fraudulent message. The same type message we get from the Democrats is a different flavor. It's still Kool-Aid at the end of the day, with cyanide in it, politically. It's not just that it's boring, it's killing this country. It's destroying this constitutional republic. So the good news is, you can pull the clip up. 2 years ago, Rush Limbaugh was forced to come out and say, I've always been a water carrier for the Republicans establishment, and I'm not doing it anymore. He had some kind of pang of conscience, and you could hear it in his voice. And now what's he doing? He's carrying the water. I saw a video clip, and I forgot to send it to Jaron. It was, it's in Paul Watson's article from Saturday. What's the headline? Forget the hoax. Ron Paul is a presidential frontrunner. And in that is a clip of Limbaugh in his studio. Looks like his home studio, not the regular one. And he's talking horrible about Ron Paul and has genuine hatred of him. And then he turns to the television and he says, there he is, in front of the ice cream stand in Iowa. And goes, this is just great. It's funny because I'd seen that same day, I guess later in the afternoon, Ron Paul in front of the ice cream stand where they were interviewing people at the Iowa straw poll. And it was that hatred that he had. That's why you never hear me come out and bash Rush Limbaugh and talk about how he's a drug addict, pill head, synthetic heroin head, and all the rest of it. Because you know what? At the end of the day, I don't like just hating on other media personalities. But to see his hatred of Ron Paul, to see him demonize Ron Paul, to see him say Ron Paul can't win, it'll destroy the Republican Party. Hey, Rush, if people like Ron Paul don't get into power in this country, America's over, buddy boy. Ron Paul has laid out everything that was going to happen with total precision. And it's archetypal that he's the man of the hour right now and is the real front runner who could unify this country and kick the globalist out of here at great risk to his own life. And you sit there selling the establishment line. You know, it's not just mainline radio talk show hosts that now talk about the New World Order and the Federal Reserve because they have to, because of this show and others and the internet, just to stay pertinent, to even stay in the game, to stay relevant. It was people like Newt Gingrich, who wrote the foreword to Alvin and Heidi Toffler's books, 2 of them, where he openly calls for world government and the end of the United States. Go pull up the quotes. A guy that supports carbon taxes. A guy that was sent in there to sabotage, like Boehner's doing, the true conservative libertarian revolution of 1994. A total CFR globalist, picked by the CFR to run for Congress decades ago because he wrote books totally calling for world government. And what did Newt Gingrich say? Well, we shouldn't abolish the Fed, but oh yes, I do want it audited. And just a few years ago, he fought auditing it publicly. And Ron Paul turned to him and he said, I am so glad that the mainstream is starting to join me. See, that's what's happening. We're winning. They're bleeding out. And so what do? They sit up there like a bunch of demonic parrots in a tree saying the same thing over and over again. There is no world government. There is no global banking cartel, but there is, and they're going to fix things with a global VAT tax that Bill O'Reilly pushes. And Ron Paul can't win. Ron Paul can't win. Did I tell you Ron Paul can't win? And I can't tell you how many local talk show hosts and national I hear say, I like Ron Paul, but too bad he can't win. That is a mind game that they developed to treat you like you're a 3-year-old. It's like an ice cream truck goes by, and your child hears the ice cream truck music, and you tell the 3-year-old, they're out of ice cream, honey, they're going home. And the 3-year-old goes, oh, there's no ice cream. It's like a lie you tell a baby so they don't throw a fit. Oh, you hear the ice cream truck, but he's out of ice cream, honey, maybe sometime down the road. It is that they treat you like brain-damaged children. Are you brain-damaged children? Or does it anger you to have these people sit up there and play their psychological warfare games on you? You know, the minute you're aware of their playbook, all their games don't work anymore. The minute you're aware of their scams, it's game over. Now, I don't get up here like a cheerleader or like a football coach who really thinks my team is going to lose. But I tell you, you can win because I just don't want you to be embarrassed too bad. If I didn't know, not think, know historically from deep research and in my spirit, in my gut, and intellectually, that not only can we stop the globalists, we can defeat them and build an incredible civilization together. Our greatest days are ahead of us if we wake up out of this television, culture of death-induced trance. This 501c3, it's the end of the world, Jesus is coming back, government-financed rapture cult. If we can get past all that garbage, and if you New Agers stop thinking that Nibiru, planet Turkey's going to kill us, if you stop having this defeatist attitude and start believing in yourselves, we could turn this civilization around. And if you're Christians out there, don't give me, oh no, it's Scripture. If my people will humble themselves and repent, then I will free them. I mean, you know all those verses, right? What about Nineveh? Jonah going to Nineveh, the 100-year reprieve. And even if it is the end of the world, even if the planet Keebler, Elf, is coming to get us, you still need to stand up against evil and not use it as an excuse to stand down and lay down and not fight corruption. The globalists are not all powerful. They realize the individual has incredible power when you have knowledge, when you have truth, and when you have the will and the courage to execute an operation against the technocrats. I crawled up literally from nowhere. That's why it's an establishment mantra that I'm establishment, and I'm backed by people when it's a complete fraud. Because they don't want you to believe that you can affect change. They don't want you to believe that you have power. I'm somebody, ladies and gentlemen, who was going to community college and about to go to the University of Texas and figured out it was all a big joke and a game, and that they were teaching me RTF information from a decade before that was worthless. So I went down and did an Access television show. I found a place, and it took me over a decade to get to where we are now. Think of where we'll be in a few years. We're growing exponentially. And it's the same example of where we came with Ron Paul. Ron Paul, 30 years ago, was a voice in the libertarian wilderness. But the system was so scared of him that they tried to get him to join them, just like they tried to get one of his colleagues to join them. His name, you may have heard of it, is Alan Greenspan, who wrote books against the New World Order, the world government, and the Federal Reserve, and called for a gold currency.